This morning, we're going to continue our sermon series on running on empty. It's been our hope that this time kind of leading into, maybe you felt it this week, with all of the different things going on centered around Thanksgiving. Maybe you traveled, maybe you had people over to your house, maybe you had to go be around family that maybe they're not your favorite people in the world, right? Maybe they bring up things around the Thanksgiving table, like, why are we talking about this? Maybe you felt some of that stress, some of the busyness, some of just a lot going on that comes at this time of year. When we do have a lot going on with holidays, with getting things done, with kids stuff, all of that it's very easy to end up feeling like you're running on empty, and we want to avoid that. And so we start talking about this idea of running on empty and how we can avoid it this holiday season. And a couple weeks ago we talked about we don't want to run out of gas. We know that that's a bad thing. Last week we talked about how we need to have things in the right order, or when we run and we run and we run and we do and we do and we go, that we're supposed to be getting ahead, but really it feels like it's draining everything from us. We found out the reason for that as we looked in a book that we don't usually read out of very often or preach out of or study out of, small book in the Bible called Haggai, where the Israelite people were experiencing the same thing. They were doing and they were going and they were busy and they were working and working hard. They weren't being lazy. They were doing. The problem was they didn't have God above everything that they were doing. And so God said, before you do anything else, you want to know why your pockets are empty? Why it feels like they have holes in them and all the money's falling out? Do you want to know why you're not satisfied? It's because you haven't rebuilt my temple. You haven't put me first. And when we don't have God first, everything that we do in life will drain us. And so this morning is our last week for this sermon series, and I want you all to picture something. Picture your car, picture the dashboard of it, and I want you, as you picture that, you'll have your speedometer there, you'll have your gas gauge there, you'll have your temperature gauge there, you have all of this information. And I want you to picture something popping on. You guys know the little check engine light? When that thing comes on, maybe you start your car up and you're late for work and it's there. The check engine light is on and that panic comes over, like, what is this? And it always feels like these things come up at this time of year, right? When you got to pay for Christmas and you got to pay taxes and you got to do all this stuff, like, oh great, now there's something wrong with my car too, right? Do you guys know what that little yellow light looks like, right? Have you paid attention to that little yellow light? I'm not accusing anybody here in the room, but I want to show you a funny video of our little check engine light. So Taylor, if you would play that clip.
Thank you for driving me to work.
You know this is my day off, Sheldon.
Oh, good. I'm not keeping you from anything. Your check engine light is on. Mm-hmm. Typically, that's an indicator to, check your engine.
It's fine. It's been on for like a month.
Well, actually, that would be all the more reason to, check your engine.
Sheldon, it's fine.
If it were fine, the light wouldn't be on. That's why the manufacturer installed that light, to let you know it's not fine.
I don't know, maybe the light's broken.
Is there a check the check engine light?
All right, a show of hands, the brave ones, are how many of you are guilty of having ignored the check engine light before? All right, we got a few people. Why do we ignore it? When it comes on, when we do ignore it, why do we ignore it? We're worried about what it's going to bring, right? It's trying to tell us something. It's just we don't want to find out what that something is because it is going to cost us some things. It's going to cost us time to just find out what it is. You take it to a shop. Hey, by the way, just to find out what this code means is going to be $150, right? So time, it's going to cost money to just find out what it is. It's going to cost us money and time and energy to get it fixed. And maybe we don't have the time, the money, or the energy to get it fixed, because maybe we're at a place when the check engine light comes on, we are already at a place of feeling exhausted, of feeling tired, of feeling worn out, physically, emotionally, financially, already exhausted, right? And then it feels like, great, one more thing that has gone wrong. And so we say, I'm going to ignore this thing. I don't want to handle it. I don't want to deal with it. Maybe you've seen videos of people putting just tape over the check engine light so they don't even get reminded that something is there, blinking at them, flashing at them, trying to warn them. Guys, it's not just a car thing, it's a spiritual thing too. That sometimes we have warning lights that come on trying to warn us if you don't slow down, if you don't change some things, it's going to get worse. This morning, would you go to the book of Psalms with me? Psalm chapter 42. We're going to read verses 5 through 8. Psalm 42, verses 5 through 8. And as we read this, see if some of these words don't stand out to you as either going through them right now, being able to relate them, like you know what this means. So Psalm 42, verses 5 through 8, that says, Why, my soul, are you so dejected? Why are you in so much turmoil? Put your hope in God, for I will still praise him, my Savior and my God. I am deeply depressed. Therefore, I remember you from the land of Jordan, the peaks of Hermon, the Mount Mizar. Deep calls to deep in the roar of your waterfalls. All your breakers and your billows, they have swept over me. The Lord will send his faithful love by day. His song will be with me in the night. This is a prayer to the God of my life. Friends, I think we've all had that moment when the warning light pops on the dashboard, and it is exactly at the wrong time. On your way to somewhere important, already moving fast, and suddenly the car decides it has something to say. It has a say-so in your life and what you have going on. Most of the time, we deal with it in the same way. We hope in that moment, oh, Lord, please don't let this be anything serious, right? We convince ourselves that the car will be fine. If I ignore this thing, it'll be fine at least for a little longer. And we keep driving because the timing is bad and the schedule is full, and we don't want something under the hood of our car to force us to slow down. The problem is ignoring it never fixes it, right? It only delays the part where the problem becomes harder and harder to deal with. Costs us more and more all the way around. The thing that happens in a car happens to us, in our spirits, in our souls. There are signals that something inside of you needs attention. You feel more drained than usual. You find yourself snapping quicker. You feel distant from God, but you keep moving on. You keep doing, you keep going. You sense that something is off, but you push whatever that might be, or even the thought of dealing with it, off to the side because stopping feels like it would be inconvenient, feels like it might cost too much. Most people wait until something breaks before they ever take the warning sign seriously. And Psalm 42 here is the picture of a man who's choosing to do the opposite. He's choosing not to wait. He recognizes that something is happening in him, even though the circumstances around him have not changed. He feels the weight of his circumstances. He feels the pressure. He feels the fatigue. But instead of powering through it, as we're often told to do, right? Instead of powering through it, pretending it will somehow disappear and go away and get better, he stops long enough to do something. He stops long enough to acknowledge it. He asks the honest question that honestly most of us, most people avoid. He says, why? My soul, my spirit, deep within me, why are you downcast? Why are you so disturbed within me? You see, this isn't a man who's falling apart before us. Instead, he's paying attention. He's doing the work most of us never do. He's diagnosing what is happening under the surface, behind the smiles, behind the facade that maybe we put on sometimes when we don't want others to know what we're going through. He goes under the surface instead of pretending that nothing's wrong. And that moment of honesty is what positions him to receive strength from God. It becomes the turning point of this entire chapter, this entire psalm. And so the message for us today begins right here, before the breakthrough, before the big turnaround that we want in our lives, before the restoration. It begins in the moment when you finally take the warning light that's flashing, it's trying to get your attention seriously. The moment when you stop explaining it away and you start facing what your soul has been trying to tell you. Because once you're willing to face it, God is ready to meet you with the strength that you have been missing. Friends, this is not a message about a collapse. It's a message about receiving clarity. It's about refusing to keep driving with the internal signals within us flashing. It's about choosing the honesty that leads to something that leads to healing. It's about recognizing that the warning light itself is not the problem. The warning light that we see is an invitation. As frustrating as it is, as bad as the timing is when that warning light, when that check engine light comes on, it's an invitation. So, once you see the warning light, the next step is simple. You have to decide what that means, right? You can't ignore it. You can't pretend that it's nothing or hope that somehow it just fixes itself. Eventually, you have to pop open the hood and you have to take a real look at what is going on. And to be honest, when most of us pop the hood of a car, we don't even know what we're looking at, right? Which means we got to take it to somebody who does and believe in their word. It's the same thing when we look at our lives. Most of the time, we don't even know what we're looking at, our mess, what we're feeling, which means I can't handle it on my own. This is exactly what the writer in Psalm 42 is doing. He does not treat his exhaustion like a dead end. He treats it like a clue. He treats it like the signal that something deeper needs attention. Why, my soul, are you so downcast? Why am I feeling so disturbed? And that brings us to the first truth this passage teaches us. Your exhaustion, you being worn out, your exhaustion isn't the end. Instead, it's the indicator. It's the light that comes on. The psalmist here, and we don't know exactly who wrote this. Most of the book of Psalms was written by David. He's not the writer of this chapter, of this particular psalm. Instead, it's attributed to the sons of Korah. And they were an interesting group, and they were kind of like priests in the temple in Jerusalem, and they had been separated at this time from Jerusalem, from the temple. They had been separated from the place that they felt like, I belong here. This is where I'm supposed to be, except I'm not there. Have you guys ever felt like, I want to be at this place? I know that this is where I belong, except I'm not there, right? That can be a place that wears us out, spiritually and emotionally and even physically, when we want to be and we long to be somewhere else, somewhere where everything else would seem like it's better, where we're supposed to be, except that's not where I'm at, right? And maybe you feel that in your job. Maybe you feel like that in situations in your family. Maybe you feel like that when you look at your bank account, right? It wears you out when you check it. That's what's going on here. Is this man, he's separated from the temple. He's worn out spiritually and emotionally and physically. He is exhausted in all of those ways. Your exhaustion isn't the end. Instead, it's the indicator. Exhaustion has a job. It's to tell you that something underneath the surface needs attention. And friends, it's not just physically that we get ourselves exhausted. It's in all kinds of ways. The worst thing that you can do is treat exhaustion as a verdict instead of a signal, right? Exhaustion, it just exposes what you yourself haven't admitted yet. Most people treat exhaustion like it's a failure. The psalmist, he treats it like it's a mirror. he sees it. He sees it as a chance to diagnose actually what is actually happening inside of him, because exhaustion is honest. We don't ever question our exhaustion, right? When you feel worn out, we know what that feels like. We know when I am tired, right? We know that. We don't question it. We know it. It's honest. It reveals the tension that maybe you have been avoiding. We know we're exhausted. Maybe we don't know why we're exhausted. Man, I feel worn out. Why do you feel worn out? See, when you stop long enough to name it, you stop the leak, and we talked about our leaks last week. You stop the leak from spreading. He names his fatigue directly, that moment alone. When he does that, it shifts the momentum of his prayer. Naming the issue breaks the power of denial. Once we name it, we can't deny it anymore, right? Naming the issue stops the pressure from building and building and building, especially in the dark. You see, God uses exhaustion when we're worn out, when we're tired physically, emotionally, to pull you toward him. He's not trying to push you away. When you're worn out and you're tired and everything around you doesn't feel like it's going right in the way that you want it to, that's not God pushing you away. God uses those things, your exhaustion from it all, to pull you toward him. The indicator, it's God's grace. It's the moment God says, you are carrying something too heavy, and you've been carrying it for too long. And I'm showing you before it takes you out, before you crumble under the weight of it. Psalm 73:26 says, my flesh and my heart, my body, they may fail, but God is the strength of my heart. He is my portion forever. You see, when you're tired, and maybe you're tired this morning, when you're worn out, when you're exhausted, it doesn't prove that it's all done, that you're done. It proves you're human. And guess what we as humans need? We need God. Your exhaustion, you're being tired, you're being worn out. It's not the finish line, it's the flashing signal. It's saying, come back to your source. Come back to your source. But oftentimes we struggle to come back to the source because our pace is too fast. We have too much going on, too many things that are distracting us and taking up too much of our time. And we need to know, we need to recognize that your pace, it preaches something. Your pace is preaching something, and you need to be careful about what's your pace if it's telling the truth. Psalm 42:6, my soul is downcast within me. Therefore, I will remember you from the land of the Jordan, the heights of Hermon, from Mount Mizar. Friends, I think we can recognize when our soul, we know that feeling, my soul is downcast within me. But that's often where we stop. My soul is downcast within me, therefore I'm going to be in a bad mood. My soul is downcast within me, therefore you better walk carefully around me. My soul is downcast within me, therefore I can't be held accountable to how I respond to it. The writer of this psalm, though, he adds that little therefore. My soul is downcast within me. And instead of saying because of that, I'm going to be the worst version of myself, he says, therefore, I will remember you, God, from the land of the Jordan, the heights of Hermon, from Mount Mizar. He realizes his soul is downcast and he immediately responds, therefore I remember you. He shifts his focus because his pace hasn't been telling the truth about what he actually needs. The way he's been living has been preaching a message that his heart can't survive. Your pace, it reveals what's important in your life. If your pace is frantic, it's preaching that you believe everything depends on you. If your pace never stops, it's preaching that rest is just optional. God tells us that rest is demanded. If your pace never includes God, it's preaching that strength comes from somewhere else. And pace problems, meaning how we pace ourselves in our lives, when we have problems with our pace, it becomes problems with our peace. Psalm 42:6, he says, my soul is downcast within me. He's describing something happening inside him that he just cannot ignore anymore. It's not a confession of sin. It's not a collapse caused by some moral failure. It is the internal result of running at a pace, being at a place, whether that's doing, going, whether that's just being full of turmoil and anxiety and worry. This isn't just a physical thing. He's at a pace that his soul cannot sustain. He's not rebelling against God. He's not walking away from his faith when he says, my soul is downcast. He's simply worn down from everything. He's worn down from pressure. He's worn down from strain, the pace that he has been carrying. That's why the language of this verse is so important for us. Because he doesn't say, I'm downcast, which means my soul has turned away from God. He says, my soul is downcast, meaning his emotional strength, his mental clarity, and that internal stability, it's all taken a hit. People often assume when we talk about peace, when your peace disappears, when the things of this life feel overwhelming, I think it's easy to assume that then something must be wrong with my belief. In reality, something is usually wrong with our pace, with how fast we're going in whatever direction. We've gotten off course and we're running too fast. Sometimes that is physically. Sometimes that's emotionally. Sometimes that's in our mind. Peace that doesn't vanish all at once. Instead, it erodes away slowly. It thins out as your schedule grows busier and busier. As your margin for error with your time and with your money and all of those things shrink. As expectations pile up. And as you carry more than you should for longer than you should. Pace drains peace quietly because it wears down the internal places that our peace is meant to live. You can still pray. You can still serve. You can still show up and believe that all the right things, yet feel that your peace has been slipping because your soul hasn't had any room to breathe. That is what the writer of this book of Psalm 42 is dealing with. His faith is intact. His theology is solid. It's just that his peace, he's at turmoil. It's taken a hit. This is why the writer follows his admission with a very deliberate shift. He says, because I'm feeling this way, because I'm acknowledging it, because I'm wondering why I feel this way, I'm going to remember you. He's acknowledging the state of his soul, that it cannot be separated from the peace that he has in God. His peace is tied to his focus, and his focus has been buried under everything that he's been carrying, all the worries, all the doubts, all the fears. And when our pace gets out of order, then our peace becomes the first casualty. And when peace goes, everything else begins to feel heavier than it should. The writer, he shows us that the first step in restoring peace is recognizing when your pace has been driving you instead of you driving it. A shift in pace requires a shift in focus. He says, therefore I remember you. He doesn't say my soul is downcast, therefore I remember the problem. He doesn't say my soul is downcast, therefore I remember my pressure. He doesn't say my soul is downcast, therefore I remember my schedule. I remember all the things I got to get done today and tomorrow and this week. Have you ever tried really hard to remember something? I'm noticing that the older I'm getting, it's harder and harder to remember the words that I'm looking for. You just can't quite remember it, right? And you remember how good it feels when you finally, it comes back to you, that name. What was their name? What was their name? And then 3 hours later, it comes back, and you're like, yes, that was it. That's that person's name. He remembers God, which means he is taking back control of what has his attention. And so often, friends, we fail to remember God in the midst of our turmoil and our anxiousness and our worries and our fears. Your pace, how you are running physically, how you are running emotionally, with your mind. Your pace is preaching a message every day, a message to yourself, a message to those around you. The question is it telling the truth about what your soul actually needs? Because your soul can't keep up with a lie. You need rest. You need rest physically. You need rest emotionally. You need rest mentally. And you see, Jesus doesn't just offer rest from life. He offers rest for your life. The writer of this psalm, he discovers something powerful. God meets him in the middle of it, not after it. Not once, oh, I've got it all figured out. I've got it all taken care of. Now God will meet me. Not after it, not outside of it. He meets him right in it. He says, by day, the Lord directs his love. At night, his song is with me. God is with you before you feel better. God didn't wait for the psalmist to stabilize, to say, hey, buddy, calm down, get some things figured out. He meets him mid-struggle. He causes him to realize some things. As he remembers the Lord, things start to change. This is what differentiates God from everything else we turn to for relief. He's present in the reality that you are living right now, in what you are worried about or scared about. He is present right where you're at. And I think that he's saying in this warning light, it's time to find some rest. You say, but Pastor, things are ramping up. It's getting busier. He's saying it's time to find some rest. Pastor, I've got a lot of worries. I have a lot of things going on. It's time to find some rest. And real rest is not a break from the responsibilities. It's not saying, hey, tomorrow morning, I got to call into work. Pastor told me I needed rest, right? Real rest is not a break from responsibility. Instead, it's the presence of God inside of the responsibility. Not saying, I have to take care of this. I have to figure all of this out. It's saying, Lord, will you help me to take care of this? Will you help me? Will you give me wisdom? People think rest is found in time off. The psalmist here finds rest in God's nearness. This is what gives us rest for the soul, not the temporary, fragile kind. Rest for your life gives you strength to move forward instead of collapsing backwards. He says, the Lord will send his faithful love by day. His song will be with me in the night. Shows us a very different kind of rest than most of us imagine. By day, the Lord directs his love. At night, his song is with me. That is not a picture of somebody stepping out of what he needs to get done. It's a picture of someone being held steady while still standing in the middle of pressure. This is the kind of rest that builds some stuff within us. It builds strength. Not rest that removes you from things you have in your life. The circumstances have not changed. He's no closer to getting to Jerusalem and back to the temple where he feels like he belongs than he was at the beginning of this. The weight around him is still real. But God's involvement, him remembering, God, you haven't left me, you haven't forsaken me, shifts the outcome. When God directs his love, that is movement, not inactivity. It means God is guiding, supporting, stabilizing, and strengthening this psalmist and us in a way that we could not generate on our own. When God's song is with us at night, it means God is sustaining us through the hardest, quietest, darkest hours, our doubts, where those things usually grow louder. This is God giving strength, infusing it into a tired soul so that the writer can keep moving, can keep going, instead of collapsing, instead of giving up. It's endurance being rebuilt from the inside out. He's not drifting backwards. He's being given what he needs in order to advance. And friends, in Scripture, this is what real rest looks like. Not escape, not avoidance, not pretending that it's not there. It's strength that is meant to hold us up. It's strength that is meant to carry you forward and make you capable of walking through seasons that would have taken you out without God. God, he's not trying to take you out of your life, out of your responsibilities, out of the things that do need to get done. He's trying to give you a strength that will carry you through it. Rest, it's not running away. It's not retreat. It's reinforcement. A few weeks ago, in our car, we have a car that sucker's got over 200,000 miles on it now. We bought it brand new 13 years ago, and feels like we've worn the tires right off of it sometimes. Denise, she was driving it to work. I needed our other car for something else. And on the way there, guess what happens? Check engine light comes on. Except like the car started having like a reaction. It wasn't just the light, it was like boom, 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 boom. She calls me, she's on the side of the road. Now it's affected both of us. Just deal with it. Now I gotta get involved. Started back up, limped its way home. And now it's like, man, we gotta find out what's wrong with this. Now we're down to one car, right? Everything's running the worst that it could be. Get a car with 200,000 miles, no telling what this is gonna be. Luckily, somebody here in the church let me borrow their little scanner and plug in and find that code, so didn't have to pay what it would cost to go have somebody look at it. Found out what was wrong with it. And it was really cool how God worked, because I was going to take it to a shop and have them look at it. And that morning when I turned it on, I felt like this doesn't feel like I should drive it. So I didn't take it. Told the guy, so I'm not sure exactly what's going on with it, but might have to have it towed. Got the tool from the person in church, checked on it. It was actually one of the things I could just fix myself. That's right. Friends, when we take the time, that was a moment where I couldn't ignore it. That was a moment where it felt like it was a breakdown, and not at a very good time. Friends, even if you are in the breakdown moment, if you don't address what's going on and find out what is the cause of this, friends, it's not going to take care of itself, and it might not even be as bad as what you think it is. Friends, if you would stand with me in this time of response. Maybe that's what God is trying to reveal to you today, the thing that you're going through and that you're worried about dealing with, and you're worried about trying to find out what's actually causing this. Maybe it's not as bad as what you built up in your mind. Now, maybe it is. Maybe it is really bad. Maybe it is not good. But even if it is at that point, guess what? You're not alone in it, right? So I would invite you in this moment to close your eyes, bow your head, spend a couple of moments with God. And I want to run some things by you. I want you to identify some of the warning lights, some of the things that might be coming on the dashboard of your soul. These are some warning lights if they're happening in your life. Irritability that comes out of nowhere. That mental fog that I just can't get clarity. Spiritual distance between you and God. A quick temper, friction in relationships, emotional exhaustion, short-lived peace, chronic overthinking, feeling disconnected from God but pretending not to be. If you felt those things, some of them, I would encourage you to respond the way that Psalm 42 demonstrates, to face it, to ask the deeper questions, to redirect your focus, to invite God into the real places of your life, not just the ones that you feel like are polished, to make room for rest that builds strength and not just relief, and to remember that the bottom line is this warning. The warning light is not God being mad at you. The warning light is His grace. Friends, over these next few moments, as Denise plays, if we can join you in prayer. If you've been running and you felt exhausted, you feel worn out in your mind, your body, in your spirit, that you've realized this morning the warning light is on. Maybe you've known that, you've just been ignoring it. Maybe you haven't known it, but now you do. Friends, when we meet with God, when He reveals things to us, His expectation is, take care of it. I'd encourage you to take care of it this morning. If that means accepting and inviting Jesus into your life for the very first time, we'll walk you through that. Maybe you've done that before, but the relationship just hasn't been as strong as it once was. So it's just putting Him back at the very top of your life. Maybe it's recognizing I don't have to do this on my own. I have a Father who sees me, who knows me, who loves me, and who will provide for me and will walk through every step of this situation with me. And it's time to live in that. Friends, if I can join you, if we can join you in prayer, I invite you over these next few moments to come to the altar and we will pray.